Can Kerry finish what Oslo started? Vertical line all Jazeera America. Global header background image. URL/content/jam/jcr:/content/header/image desktop.adapt.960.high.1,364,938.jpg at media minimum width 768 px and max width 959 px. Global header background image. URL/content/jam/header/image.adapt.960.high.1,378,934,938.jpg at media max width 767 px. Global header background image. URL/content/jam/medium.1,378,929,164,938.jpg. Display mobile navigation. Display mobile search bar. News. Video. Shows. Schedule. More shows. Sections. U.S. International economy, technology, science, environment, health, education, culture, sports. Trending. Syria's war, weather, health, technology. Search form. Can Kerry finish what Oslo started? By Jamie Tarabi at Jamie. September 13, 2013, 6 o'clock a.m. at New Israeli-Palestinian talks began this summer under a cloud of skepticism. Topics. International. Israel. Palestine. View comments. John Kerry has been to the region 6 times since becoming Secretary of State. Mondale NGN/Getty Images. In January 2001, mere months into the Second Palestinian Intifada that followed the collapse of the Camp David peace talks, then Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak said, "In a few years, we will bury our hundreds of dead, and they will bury their thousands of dead, and we will go back to the negotiating table, and we will face the same issues." More than 12 years later, those words still reverberate across heartening political positions on both sides, as Secretary of State John Kerry is sought to renew peace efforts over the summer. The political shift among both Israelis and Palestinians away from parties favoring compromise, and the changing geographic and demographic facts on the ground have made resolving those issues even more difficult than when Barak and Yasser Arafat tried and failed. And the coups and revolutions that continue to roil the Arab world have made the regional climate less conducive to reinforcing the peace deal than it had been 2 decades ago. We have reached an agreement that establishes a basis for resuming direct final status negotiations between the Palestinians and the Israelis, Kerry announced in July. Talks began July 30 in Washington, D.C., and continued over the summer over meetings in Jerusalem and Jericho. They are the first public face-to-face encounters between negotiators from the two sides since a short-lived round of talks collapsed in 2010. Since then, both sides have found issues to complain to Kerry about. The Palestinians claimed Washington had guaranteed the basis for any negotiations would be the 1967 lines that demarcate Israel from the West Bank, East Jerusalem and Gaza, a claim U.S. officials have denied. The Israelis complain that the Palestinians have leaked details of the discussions, counter to directives from Washington. The final status issues which Kerry referred to are the familiar tableaus of intractable issues deferred by the 1993 Oslo Accords that first set the peace process in motion. These were to have been resolved at Camp David in 2000, the status of Jerusalem, the plight of Palestinian refugees, and the borders that would define the two-state solution to the conflict. But that summit failed. Kerry's process has presented domestic political challenges for both Israeli and Palestinian leaders. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tried to persuade his cabinet, and argued in a text message to reporters that agreeing to release retirement-aged Palestinians imprisoned before the Oslo Accords saved him having to commit to any preconditions to renew talks. Palestinians had previously insisted that negotiations be based on the 1967 boundaries, and a halt to construction in Israeli settlements outside the 67 lines. The Israelis had demanded an unconditional renewal of talks, and Netanyahu has publicly rejected the Palestinian preconditions, citing them as reason to blame Abbas for the lack of negotiations in recent years. But the Palestinian leadership points to 2 decades of failed talks, and insists that their preconditions are a litmus test of Israeli seriousness.